Okay, so today we are discussing how do you know if your relationship can even heal? And we are with Dr. Trish Lee.
All right, I love it. That is a great question. And I know people become frustrated when I can barely give them an answer, but the answer is a process, of course. It's not an event like this whole thing. But we can talk about and discuss what the markers for healing are. And I think I've said before on this podcast that in this whole journey of recovery from any sexual betrayal, anything like that, there are behaviors to look for, believe behaviors. I'm pretty sure we talked about that. That's a major thing that women or partners need to be able to look for in this recovery journey in their partner. So what does that mean? That means that all of the, hopefully, but a transition from secrecy and hiding, manipulation, which we should dig into that a little bit today, because that's a wild ride. And I'd love to spend a little time on how to know you're being manipulated, because the reason, well, let me finish that thought first, is that looking for more honesty, more sharing, just intimacy, and your partner sharing what's going on. So if he's stressed out at work, which is a major trigger for many people to go back to sexually acting out behaviors, being able to share with you or with somebody else that work is stressful can make it so that then he doesn't need to act out. So that's kind of building intimacy in different areas. And at the same time, being able to regulate his mood in healthy ways, not distracting oneself, but regulating their mood in healthy ways. And we'll unpack all these things. And at the same time, decreasing hypersexuality and building healthy sexuality. Now, all of those things we'll dig into in a minute, but that is a process. None of that stuff happens quickly. So that's why I always encourage people that if they're not completely put off by what's happening in their world, and of course it's very disorienting, but if in their heart they want to give their relationship a try, then become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Ease into the discomfort that this journey is going to give you. This is not a joyride. It can definitely be a growth opportunity. But first and foremost, you have to gain your own strength in the journey and go, okay, I'm here for this. I can do this. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to grow myself up. I'm going to help my partner grow himself up. But of course, he needs to be in a program, figuring out how to do that. Then, as I take my journey of growth and my partner does, there's things to look for in me as the partner and in my partner as the person who struggles with hypersexuality or sexual acting out, whatever, watching pornography, whatever that thing might be. So before I go on, any thoughts? Because there's like a million things to unpack there.
No. I was taking notes. I was like, oh, this could go in many different directions.
It really can.
But the part that I found interesting was if you know it in your heart that you do want to try to fix this. Clearly, I think people that are asking the question, can my relationship even heal from this? Can we get better? Those are the people that know it in their heart that they do want to get past this and they do want to heal.
Yep,
right?
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And the others are, they are just out.
Yeah, and I will tell you, like, from my experience, the people who are just out, that is misplaced. That is the inability to process a difficult situation, which is a sign of low emotional maturity. So those people are the ones who need the journey the most. The ones who are like, this is just way too much for me. I can't handle it. And don't get me wrong, some people's acting out behaviors, like, people are going to hear this and go, oh yeah, well, my husband's been with 74 prostitutes, or, oh yeah, my husband married someone in Japan. Those are real examples, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
So like, that's completely overwhelming. And it's totally justified to bounce out of it. But I would encourage that person to take their own journey of healing, not just go, what a jerk, I'm out, I'm moving on. Because when you move on, and Many women have said this to me in the last couple of weeks. I feel like I've been in the same relationship 4 times. This keeps happening to me. It's like, yes, because you are attracting that type of partner to you. So when you join a program and you learn the things that you need to learn about yourself, then you don't do that. History doesn't have to repeat itself over and over. But yes, you're totally right. The people who go, I'm devastated by this. I wonder if I can heal from it. Those are the people who have to go, this is really hard. And, realize that you're not on the same side of the street as your partner anymore. You're on a new side, and you might be on that side by yourself for the first time ever. That's a scary place to be, like over there with, seemingly no support system, with the person that you've gone to and you've trusted for so long, with your heart and your mind and your pain and your everything. That person now can't be trusted. You know how I love music. I was thinking this too, which this is not the song I was thinking about, but there's a Fall Out Boy song, which I love me some Fall Out Boy. Fall Out Boy has a song, something about how, like, realizing that the person that you love is the one that's pointing the gun at you.
Oh,
And like, it's pretty powerful line. I can't remember it right now, but and that's the idea, is like this, it comes crashing down. Like, you were supposed to be my safe place, and now you're
right.
my scary place. And then I'm over here on this new side of the road. I'm supposed to work on myself. And you're the one who's done this. Why do I gotta work on myself?
Yeah.
And you do, because that's how you heal. And when you heal, that's the only way your relationship possibly can heal.
Right. Right. So it is, if it's in your heart to want to heal, then it's possible.
Yep.
And you can only still work on yourself. You can't control what the other person is going to do. You can't check up on them. You can't demand that they open everything to you. Now, I like also, and I want you to keep talking about the transition between, secrecy, hiding, and manipulation to sharing and openness and vulnerability
Transparency.
and
Yep.
intimacy,
Mhm.
right? It is possible to get there, but it is this journey that you're both on, and you're both on it individually,
Mhm.
but then you're also both on it together because you're working towards something.
Yeah, absolutely. And culturally, we're taught, like, men are taught to deal with difficult stuff by themselves, and to be strong, and not to share that with anybody. And that's why, again, I know it might make some people mad, but I have a ton of compassion for people who struggle with sexual acting out behaviors. Most of them, there's the 1% that are true narcissists. Then there's the 99% that grew up with hypersexuality, grew up with not being able to deal with their emotions. They've learned whatever behavior to go to. Many times that's driven in trauma, and the way that they have solved those uncomfortable feelings, and when they're young, family dysfunction, they learned, like, either, being with a lot of people is a way to comfort their nervous system. This goes to the mood regulation piece. Science shows us that when people act out sexually and they develop hypersexuality, being very, very sexual, looking for sex everywhere, it's because they're looking to soothe their nervous systems, because their nervous systems, their brains, don't feel comfortable in the world. And they've developed over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, this mechanism of, I just go for dopamine hits where I can get them, either with acting out with people, or definitely in consuming pornography, because that's not even real. It's just giving them massive amounts of dopamine. So mood regulation is at the core. That's why I'm so compassionate, because it is a dysregulation in the brain. It's a dysfunction. So going back to the healing pieces, if your partner is someone who truly is sick, not well, has brain mechanisms going that are not optimal, they're very suboptimal, then if you love that person, then try. It's going to be hard, but we can do hard stuff. We have the bandwidth for more than we know we do. And just like a diamond is forged from coal under pressure, that's the opportunity that we have in this situation, to go, okay, this is really hard, but if I can stick with this for my best friend, and if your partner is your best friend who has a problem and has hid that problem from you because they're ashamed and they're filled with shame, then you know what, you can go through a difficult journey. But here's the part with the transition in the journey is that this is a very difficult thing to overcome. Very difficult. And, we're going to be you and I are going to be here out at the forefront of just a wave of marital problems that are coming, because addressing sexual acting out behaviors, very difficult to overcome forever. So it becomes a continual conversation for that coupleship, which is not going to be something your partner's going to want to do, which is why a program is important, so that they're not always talking to you, they're talking to somebody else. But when you believe behaviors, you can see that person change. You can see, here's the number one thing I think is, I call it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where when a person is going through a sexually addictive cycle, their behavior changes. Sometimes they're up when they've got that dopamine rush. After the dopamine rush, they're down, and it's very difficult for them to engage in the world. So that creates Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You don't know which version of your partner you're going to get. And so that's part of the before this journey. So as you move through the healing and your partner's doing what he needs to do, you have the consistent version that has medium amounts of dopamine, not low dopamine and high dopamine. So now you have an even keeled partner who's not angry and irritable one day and all riding high another day.
It moves into regulation.
It moves into regulation, and neurological regulation falls out as self-regulation. Self-regulation means you don't have to go to something to comfort yourself. You're able to do it internally. You don't have to go to something externally. And so then that's how you know your partner's brain is healing. Manipulation, as tricky as it is a protective mechanism for addicts. So when you know that, but narcissists manipulate too. This is the tricky part. So in the healing process, you have to follow your intuition. You have to give yourself time and space to feel the feels, feel what you're feeling, so that you can begin to discern if these changes are happening. And manipulation happens because the person's protecting their addictive cycle. Addictions do not die easily. This addiction in particular science hasn't proven it yet, but anecdotally, thousands of people have told me, I've quit cigarettes, I've quit alcohol, I've quit gambling, I've quit heroin, I've quit cocaine. All of them are easier than quitting this because it's internalized, and we can talk about that a different day.
Yeah.
Very difficult to get rid of the cycle. So if manipulation's still happening, then your partner's brain is not healed. But you have to begin to know when you're being manipulated. Partners don't know when they're caught in it. And then this is the part of your journey. When you get stronger in yourself and you start doing your own thing and you feel confident, then you're like, dang, I was just manipulated. And you can look for the manipulation. But then the thing is, you don't have to be mad about it. You have to be concerned about it, because it's a sign that you still have more to move through this journey.
Right. So actually, I mean, I think I want to keep going back to the question of how do you know if it can heal? And you're saying, first off, if it's in your heart that you want to, there's a possibility. However, you both have to engage in a healing process of some sort. And whether that is, the man working through your program and the woman working through our program, or some counseling separately and separately and together. There is a journey to be had to where you also have to learn, as the female, to learn how to trust yourself, because you just went through this whole process of, well, I thought I did trust my intuition, right? I thought I did understand what was going on, and I guess I can't trust that. And
See,
I
I
want
think
people to know that can come back.
at least in my experience, and maybe you can talk to, people you've worked with and from your own experience. From my experience, once, in hindsight's 2020, once people
Right.
start working on this, they go, I should have seen it. I could have seen it.
Absolutely.
I could have known. I did know. I should have. And I'm not a person to stick in shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but my point about that is most women, their intuition fired up. They chose, and I know people don't like to hear that they made that choice. They chose to ignore it, or they approached to try to solve it, but then it gets too big and you don't know how to solve it. So then you let it die and get back to fake great, as I call it. So I think the real skill is going, you know what? My intuition has always served me. I might not have served her very well because I didn't have the strength. And that's why I always say, like, then when you start to feel your intuition through this journey and you go, oh no, I feel it. I have to move towards conflict. I got to mix the pot. Nobody wants to do that.
Yes.
And I get it. I totally get why you don't want to, but inside you go, my intuition, my spider senses are tingling. And now I have to move towards it, not pour another drink and ignore it, not do some work, not just go out with my friends. You have to go, it in fact is there. And now I'm going to move towards it.
Right. And not just say, well, there's nothing I can do, so I'm just going to keep going. I mean, that's not doing yourself any services. Yes, absolutely. But there are that, I don't know what the percentage is. I'll say 1%,
Yeah.
of people that truly they were completely blindsided. They, just never saw that happening because they want to have full trust, right? They want to know that they have a great life and it never got to them for whatever reason. And I think that is hard to come back from, but I totally agree. And in your point too is, you realize I missed things. I could have
Mhm,
probably called this
mhm,
out. That doesn't
mhm,
mean
mhm.
it wouldn't have happened.
Right,
You
right.
just might have been able to confront it
Absolutely.
earlier, right?
Yeah, and this is tricky stuff, man. I always, when I talk to men and they agree with me, like, how I feel about this. Men are being hijacked by addiction and then they act out. And yeah, they have full, some, not necessarily control, but they know and they have choices too, and they have to gain strength in the journey. But addiction is sleuthy. It tricks everybody. So, like, that's why when you work on it together, it's out of the dark and into the light. It has to stay in the light
Right.
so that people can heal. And I had an interesting thought actually to throw it back to you is that, like, when we talk about healing, what's the definition of healing? What is it?
Hmm. To get better.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, to me, it's like, and then this just came to me. I don't have the answer prepared, but what I think the healed relationship looks like is each person is strong and comfortable in their own self. They can see what still needs to be worked on. This is a lifetime journey. It doesn't mean you have to work with someone for a lifetime, but support's always a good thing. But being able to go, oh, you know what, like, it's really difficult for me to do this thing. And then looking at your partner and your partner going, it's hard for me to share with you. And then, like, and for you as a woman, I'm just making spitballing, going, it's really difficult for me to feel sad and not be able to share it with him because I've always shared that with him, but now he's not safe. So you know what that means is you need to figure out another way to process your sadness that doesn't involve, always going to him. And so then it takes a codependent, most times there's a codependent relationship at the core of sexual addiction or sexual acting out. Sometimes, many times. But anyways, in the end, a healed relationship is an interdependent relationship where each person's strong enough to handle their own things,
Right.
which allows them to confide in each other, but not overly need that person to validate them or to regulate their emotions for them. So when you learn these skills, interdependence, a really strong way of thinking about a relationship, and it's not separating, it's getting really strong each partner. So the whole relationship is strong. And to me, that's the healed relationship.
Actually, so I think that that's a great place to kind of wrap up, because I want to end on that very powerful note that not only can it heal if you feel it in your heart that you want it to heal, but it might not even return. It might not just, be a healed relationship. It can actually get to a place where it's better than ever, because most likely that was how your relationship was. It was very codependent. It was very much all interwoven. And now you can both come out of this with learning more about yourself than you ever did, and being able to just be the best versions of yourselves, and then therefore the best marriage that you can ever have dreamed of. I think that's what I do hear from healed couples, is that it's not just that we fixed this problem.
Right.
We feel like a power couple now.
Yeah.
We
You don't
have
fix it,
this,
you reinvent it. And in
it's
the
brand
reinventing,
new.
mhm,
Yeah. So
mhm.
I want to let people know that this is an uphill climb, but know that on the other side of that really could be something that you really can't even wrap your head around at this point, but it's there and it's been shown so many times.
Yeah, and I think, and I know, again, people might not like hearing it, but when you find yourself in this situation, if you can handle it, it becomes a blessing that you can
Yes.
move through
Yes.
and, you
I
know,
agree.
have the whole rest of your life to have an amazing
I
relationship.
totally
So
agree.
I
Totally
agree.
agree.
All
Yeah.
right. So healing, man, it's there for the taking if
It is
people want it,
there.
for sure.
Yeah. So if you could just remind people where they can get in touch with you, for your program,
Yeah,
Born
sure.
Brave
So, and
Reboot.
actually at my website, drtrishlee.com, which we've just reinvigorated. It's amazing. My web developer did a really great job. There are all of the programs are there. And then there's also a link for the partners program that'll link through, because we're creating our website still at Sanity After Betrayal. So that website will be there. But in the meantime, if you're looking for the one small program that I've created, is housed there for right now, but it'll link through to Sanity After Betrayal.
Perfect. Perfect.
So
Okay.
there. All
Thank
right.
you so
Okay.
much.
Yeah. Sounds great.
All
See
right.
you next time.
Bye.
Bye.